Thank you all for coming this evening on this rather dreary, rainy day. It's our great pleasure to have Ms. Minako Ahearn here, who will be speaking on U.S.-Japan joint educational endeavors in Atlanta, raising global citizens who are peacemakers. Ms. Ahearn was born in New York, but raised in Tokyo, having experienced both Japanese and English education, and studying international law at the International Christian University in Japan. She earned her Bachelor's of Music degree from the Music Academy der Stadt Basel in Switzerland, before earning her master's degree in education, focusing on two-way immersion education. Here in Atlanta, Ms. Ahearn has taught Japanese at our own Oglethorpe University, while also working with the law firm of Keene and Spalding. She later became the Director of International Student Services at LaGrange College here in Georgia. In 1998, she became the Managing Director of the Seigakuin School here in Atlanta, before being promoted to Vice Principal in 2003, and later to the role of Principal in 2008, a role she still occupies. And more recently, Ms. Ahearn has joined the Advisory Board of the Oglethorpe University Museum of Art. It's my great pleasure to welcome Ms. Minako Ahearn.
I would like to start out by saying thank you to Oglethorpe University to invite me to speak today. Our school adopted this teaching structure called two-way immersion, and ever since I have been keenly aware that doing things two-way is much better than doing things one way. So today we'll do informal time. You are welcome to interrupt me anytime. If you have questions or comments, please raise your hand or just start talking. And in the end, I will take some time for Q&A as well. Now, let me see which one I should start with. So, Seigakuin schools and university now have 10 schools with an enrollment over 5,000 students. And you might think of us as a Japanese school, but actually Seigakuin School in Japan was founded by American missionaries. So to borrow from the Gettysburg Address by President Abraham Lincoln, I would like to say Seigakuin always has been a school of American people and Japanese people, by American and Japanese people, and for American and Japanese people. Our history actually started over 100 years ago, and in the history from 1587 to 1873, I think I'm correct, Christianity was banned in the whole country of Japan. So in 1883, that means only 10 years after the ban of Christianity was lifted, the disciples of Christ, missionaries, the churches sent 4 missionaries to Japan. And these missionaries did not stay in big cities. They went up north, Akita and Sendai and those regions now, unfortunately, you know, as the disaster area of 2011 earthquake. That's where the American missionaries went. But of course, the life was not very easy. Mr. and Mrs. Garst. Mr. Garst was a towering man over 6 feet tall and was a graduate of West Point. But he decided he should follow the commandment of Jesus Christ to disciple all nations. And so at age 30, he decided to go to Japan. And he learned Japanese for 7 months. And then he went on to speak to these people in very rural area. And people have never seen foreigners before, and they were not very nice to Mr. and Mrs. Garst. They laughed at him, and it said in a book that people threw stones at him from the back. However, Mr. Garst was only 46 years old when he died in Japan, but at that time, a famous Japanese statesman said, "The West never made a greater gift to the East than Charles Garst." And Mr. Garst loved Japan as much as the Japanese people themselves and called Japan as my country. So by the time he died, he was admired and loved and missed by so many Japanese people. And now we go on to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They also went to northern Japan. Mrs. Smith, it's a sad story, was considered the first disciples of Christ martyr because the conditions were so severe in that area. She died after giving birth to a child, and the baby died soon after also. Her death moved the hearts of so many Christians, especially women, in this country, and many people sent donations to help build this first building of worship. And it says on the top, you can see very well, but right here, Christian Church. Now we move over to the next page, and Dr. Guy. Over 100 years ago, Dr. Guy said, world peace awaits blend of Eastern culture and Western culture. This idea is embodied in two-way immersion education in 21st century. Seigakuin Atlanta, we call SAMES, has realized Dr. Guy's dream, his philosophy, by creating a truly bilingual and bicultural school that unites East and West. Two-way immersion, this is a very trendy terminology of this century, but Dr. Guy, I think, planted the seed for our school to grow and flourish in this direction over 100 years ago. And next page is Miss Clausen. She believed when she came to Japan, the education for women, girls, had to change in Japan, and so she started the girls' school, Joshi Seigakuin. In the first year, there were only 12 students, so Miss Clausen was very disappointed, and she wrote to her teacher in the United States, I have only 12 kids. But the teacher in America responded to her saying, remember, Jesus only had 12 disciples. So she did not give up, and she went on, and the school grew and grew. So it was a good thing that she did not give up. Now, we are switching to this century. I'm going to touch on Mr. Masaru Hayami. He is a famous person in Japan. He passed away, but former governor of the Bank of Japan. This position is the equivalent of Mr. Greenspan of the U.S. Federal Reserve. He was the counterpart then of Mr. Greenspan. So he was in the top of the financial world, and he's one of the, I have to say, few Christian leaders of our country. And but after he retired, he came to us and became the honorary chairman of the board, and he also taught graduate students. Now, so we grew and grew. So this is a wonderful chart here. And this is a picture of Seigakuin University Chapel. This is girls' high school, Joshi Seigakuin Chapel. And this is boys' high school. And this is kindergarten, newly built because of the earthquake of 2011. We had to rebuild this kindergarten. It's just now built. And this is elementary school. And we are now under the construction. We are planning to complete the new school building in December of 2014, all related to the earthquake. We had to do a lot of this, not just our school, but many places. This is another kindergarten, and this is us, Saints, Atlanta School. And you will notice when our school, Atlanta School, was founded, our address was 3007 Hermes, which means we were on the campus of Oglethorpe University, and I don't know how many of you knew those days, but this is just a wonderful memory that comes back to me when I come to Oglethorpe University. In 1988, Seigakuin University in Japan began a sister school relationship with Oglethorpe University to start an exchange program between two higher education institutions, and that's how everything started. And then Oglethorpe University provided the hardware of the campus and the school building. And Seigakuin Japan provided the software of the personnel, the teachers, and that started the educational joint venture between US and Japan that is now known as SAINT. And Dr. Stanton, President Emeritus of Oglethorpe University, and Dr. Nishimura, Professor Emeritus of Philosophy at Oglethorpe University. These two people were just so instrumental in the founding days. Our school probably would never have started without these two people. And in the fall, I think there'll be 2 Seigakuin students from Japan coming to Oglethorpe campus. So we're looking forward to these 2 students coming. And in 2003, we purchased our land and we moved to our current location, which is 15 minutes north of Oglethorpe. But we still keep up, and Dr. Steen brings his students to our school, and we're very fortunate that the friendship continues. Now, I am going to talk about basically 5 or 6 key concepts to describe our school. We are from 3-year-old to 6th grade, and we're a Christian school, and we value service learning, two-way immersion, and we do a lot of cooperative learning and differentiated instruction. So I'm going to touch on those. And now I am going to let you know that there's some binders in the back about our service learning. You're welcome to just go grab it and read while I talk or after this lecture. So there's a binder on service learning and also Japanese as a second language binder. There you would know what kind of teaching strategies we use to teach Japanese as a second language. And we also have newsletter from the 6th graders and so forth. So there's some more information there for you. And now I am going to see if I can do this. Let's see, where was it? Right here. This is the DVD of our school children, and some of you who arrived early got to see some portion of it. But I will start from our preschool pictures that should be right around here. Oh, but I'm going to, do this. So, sorry, I can't see very well. So this is our kindergarten, and you can see a girl with blonde hair, American parents, obviously, right there. And also on the other side was, you will see maybe a girl from Nigeria right here, and her mother is from Korea, and over there is another girl whose mother is from China, and so forth. Very international kindergarten. We believe starting language study early is the key. So 90% of the day, preschool and kindergarten children are immersed in Japanese. And we memorize, this went on to elementary, but memorize monthly Bible verse in Japanese and English. So by the time the kids graduate from our kindergarten, they know about 30 Bible verses in 2 languages, and it's amazing how well they can remember all the Bible verses. We do a lot of free play and a lot of hands-on learning, and we also value reading and writing, so we do a lot. But we play outside and do gardening, and so everything. Now, let me just move on to, do you have any questions so far? Okay, then maybe
your
yes.
teachers are, do they mostly have lived in America for a long time?
The Japanese teachers, so I have to explain about our teachers, how half of our teachers were born in Japan mostly, except for me, and they grew up in Japan, and they teach in Japanese department. So this is one group of teachers. So their teaching license mostly come from Japan. But sometimes they might come to this country, and we had one who graduated from Oglethorpe who taught at our school too. And the English teachers, like you see here, she's from New York, so she got her teaching license in New York. And we honor teaching license from all countries. So we don't say Georgia license. That is a little different from Georgia public schools. But let me show you just a little bit of our Christmas scene. I can do it. So kindergarten has Christmas pageant, and the elementary also has its own Christmas pageant. And some of you might have seen our, we were on TV last Christmas on WSB TV because we do bilingual pageant. This is done in 2 languages, so the TV came. And so that was very nice. And let me go to show you the next scene, which I wanted to explain a little bit about our cooperative learning. And just a second, I need my glasses. So, here you see English teacher has 2 kids that are coming as a pair, and these 2 kids, they're doing cooperative work and making one sentence together, and this is a study of adjective, and it would be hard to see, but anyway, they were doing some adjectives, and we believe in cooperative learning a lot because we must. Japanese native speakers and English native speakers are together at our school. They coexist and cooperate. So in English classrooms, English native speakers serve as mentors and group leaders when Japanese students need assistance, and the vice versa in Japanese classrooms. And let me show you some Japanese classrooms as well. So in the real world, I think everyone has to learn that you don't know everything, and sometimes you have to get help. And if you are in a monolingual school, you have seen, or you might have been one, that you think you know everything. And you're good at math, you're good at English, and you're good at everything. So you might start to think that, sorry, it's taking me a little bit long to find the Japanese classroom. Let's see. Yes, so now this is the Japanese classroom with adjectives again, but, well, we switched over to English, I'm sorry. Anyway, so the beauty is that they take turns in helping each other. You are not always on the one side of being helped. If you always get help and don't get the experience of helping someone, you might form low self-image, self-esteem. However, in our school, everybody can grow healthy, very healthy self-image, because you're coming from American family, Japanese family, you do both helping and being helped. So that's one of the nice things about our school. And now, I guess if I have time, I might come back to the video, but I'm going to move on to two-way immersion. There are over 400 two-way immersion schools in the United States. So we're only one of 400, and but most of them are doing in Spanish and English, and in such states as California, Texas, and Florida, where there are a lot of Spanish speakers reside. But as you can guess, Japanese and English two-way immersion schools are very rare, although there are 400. So you're seeing one very unique school in Atlanta, Georgia. I would like to show you who we are, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So we have three distinct linguistic groups at our school. Japanese speakers who speak Japanese at home, and bilingual means one Japanese parent, one English parent. From the day one, they are immersed in two-language bilingual environment. And the third group is English-speaking or other language speakers. So at home, there is no Japanese. And by coming to our school, they start to hear the Japanese language. Sorry, not this one. And the percentage has been sort of like this recently. Bilingual group is 1/3, Japanese is 1/2, and non-Japanese English speakers or Chinese, Korean, Spanish speakers are 15%. And Japanese means they're mostly temporary residents. Some students just go back after 1 year, and we have to say many goodbyes. It is very sad. And the longer ones can stay maybe 5 years, but not any longer. Bilingual family and non-Japanese. It goes up and down, but 10% to 20% in the last several years. And this is the chart, the transition of our group percentage. You can see in 1998, we had lots of Japanese families. And from 1990, the year our school started, to 1998, the percentage, I think, was basically like this. I wasn't there at the school. But now you can see the drop to 24% maybe in the Japanese speaking group. And this is the time our teachers and staff started talking about, I think we need to do something. We need to find a new path. And this is when we started researching two-way immersion education, and we loved it. So 2004, this is when we started two-way immersion, and ever since our percentage seemed to be fairly stable, although it changes every day, little by little. So we have Japanese speakers and English speakers, and they learn from each other. And it is very nice because they are really native speakers. If you can think of yourself when you're in high school, you were in a class of Latin or Spanish, and only one teacher versus 30 of you. And for a teacher to teach Latin, it's very difficult. But if half of your classmates are the native speakers of Latin, they're like teaching assistants. So it is so much nicer, so much easier to learn that language. And that is happening at our school because we are so blessed that we have native Japanese speakers, half of them, and English native speakers, 50%. And they are learning from each other. And our school is a little bit like stay home, study abroad program for American families, because if you go to a Japanese classroom, it's almost like you're in Japan. Everything on the board you see is Japanese, and the teacher speaks to you in Japanese and everything. And we have, it's like a Common Core. Everybody in Japan has a set of standards, and we are accredited by the Japanese Ministry of Education, so we use the same curriculum as the most Japanese schools do, actually, 99%. And so I can almost exaggerate and say on June 10th, maybe they're doing page 24 in the 16th century of Japanese history in Japanese 6th grade social studies classroom in Tokyo in a public school somewhere. And we might be doing the same on June 10th. It's that similar. That's what you can experience at our school. So that is very different from any other school. And this gets a little technical. How am I doing on time? I'm still okay? So the ratio of the two languages, it says 90-10 model, and this is what we do, but there are 50-50 model, and then the young age through the end of the program, the school continues to have 50% of the time in English and 50% of the time in another language. However, Japanese is very difficult and very different from English, and there's no casual encounter to Japanese language and culture by walking a town of Atlanta. So we decided to do the very best scenario to acquire the minority language, which is Japanese. So that's why we started 90% and 10% model. And the percentage gradually shifts. By the time the kids come to elementary school, then it's more balanced, and they do Japanese math, Japanese science, English science, English social studies, Japanese social studies, and they will become very balanced bilingual at our school. This is our schedule weekly. This is also, not all two-way immersion schools do this. Often you will see Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, all English, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, all Spanish. And they might alternate week by week. But our school, our students come to our school, and every day they get to experience two cultures, two languages. So it's like coming to school and going to a school, American school and Japanese school, and come home. Every day they do that. And your question is, how do they not get confused? But kids seem to have no trouble doing it. Going down the stairs to English classroom areas, they just switch the language and everything becomes English. Teachers' faces are, non-Japanese, and they just seem to have no trouble. Oops. And why is the part that's very unique and different from other 400 two-way immersion schools in the United States? Because they're mostly public schools, charter and magnet, but our role model is Paul, St. Paul, because we know he was the bilingual. And so we talk about Paul a whole lot. I guess they're mostly English speakers today. But I don't talk to our students, or this is not on the entrance exam of our school, about all these technical things to our children. I do explain to the parents, but all I do to the children is repeat this. Our school is all about helping each other. In a preschool, you will see this every day if you can come and visit. A 3-year-old who came from Japan recently is crying, and another child will approach and say, "Doshita no? Daijoubu?" in Japanese. And because you want to find out, is she hungry? Did she hurt herself? Is she mad? Does she miss her mommy? In Japanese. And that's what our children do. And 30 minutes later, an American child is upset. And then the other kids will go to him and say, "What's wrong? Let's go outside and play." And that's all in English, because that's the language that they use with this child. So very natural switch of the languages are taking place, and there is a reason to speak, to help, or to communicate. It's not just a textbook learning, but to help each other, they just have to speak two languages. And let me borrow your toy type of things. Those are most important to preschool children. So they learn a lot of important verb at the first day or first week. It's amazing. This is what we do, but parents need to help and support us. So I ask the parents to be open-minded and to try yourself to get interested in learning another language and another culture. And number 2, please praise your child, because they're doing a lot of hard work. And on the road to becoming bilingual, it's not easy. And number 3, I ask that please make a long-term commitment, because we can't perform a miracle. I can't create a bilingual person in 1 year, so please stay with us 5 to 7 years. So that's what I tell the parents. But our school has to have a lot of parental involvement and support. That's very important to all schools, but to our school especially. I wanted to mention a little bit about this language skill. Iowa test of basic skills, you all know American Standard Test. Both Japanese and English speakers, starting from the 3rd grade, they take this English test, math and science and all that. And the amazing thing is that recently the Japanese students are making grade level scores or even higher after 1.5 years or even after 2 years. Around then, they started to score about the grade level in English subjects, in English language arts. So of course, the American families who decided to come to our school feeling a little uneasy, but are usually pleasantly surprised that their children do just fine or better compared to their counterparts in monolingual schools. And you'll see some of the examples in newspapers. You know, my hope is that the 6th graders made these, published the newspapers in English, and what they did, they might be interested in becoming like a school newspaper editor when they go to American high school. We're again planting the seeds so they can be better prepared in American middle schools. And another thing I wanted to mention is the debate. The 6th graders last year did the debate in English and also in Japanese. In English, you probably read the book Giver. It's often the 7th grade summer reading list, the suggested reading. This book they read at the 6th grade, and they divided into 2 groups, and they debated. And then the same group of children in Japanese language arts class in 6th grade, they also did the debate in different subjects. So it is a very high level bilingual ability they are able to achieve if they can stay until 6th grade. And our alumni, our graduates have been accepted by Atlanta private schools such as Westminster and Lovett and Marist, really the best private schools in Atlanta International School. And they score SAT Japanese perfect score and AP Japanese 5, the highest. So the graduates do very well in Japanese, but the amazing part is that the same students who make AP Japanese 5 also make AP Lang or AP US History 5s. And so the college really value our graduates. And I have to say that many researchers say that, but this is also our own experience. It's correct. Learning 2 languages at early age do not delay the students' academic achievement in their first language, or sometimes they balance both languages. And many of the American alumni choose to go to Japan during the 3rd year in college to brush up their Japanese proficiency, so they start to remember Japanese by going to Japan, and usually that's the first time they live in Japan. American alumni usually forget a lot of Japanese when they're in American high school, but that's a nice returning time, getting to know more Japanese culture. And one of the alumni recently got hired by Japanese consulate, so American alumni, I have to say, so I was very proud of her. So let me see if I have a few minutes. I guess I need to finish soon, but I'm going to answer questions, and at the same time, I'll just scroll our Facebook page so I can show you some of the things we are doing recently. Let's see. We had a Holocaust class by one teachers recently in English social studies because we were studying the World War I and World War II recently. And in English language arts class, we just finished reading Anne Frank. So that's what we did. And this class on the left is the Japanese students learning English through music. It's an elective course, and that's the culture day. And they get to wear Japanese yukata. And on the left, you see 5th and 6th grade, their interpretation of Monet, Water Lilies. This is, they did just such a great job, but this is English art, so they might be reading about Monet in English and doing this. Kids are playing, and you see some alumni coming back to help, and so forth. I guess I need to wait here until refreshes. But do you have any questions or comments that I can answer for you? Yes.
If an American child starts in kindergarten,
Yes.
how good is that child's Japanese by 6th grade?
Yes, I think they really peak because after they leave, they do forget. And I have to say, when they start American school,
They
it's
lose.
very difficult to keep that level. But I have to say that the Japanese debate, they can participate in Japanese debate. Yes, and our teachers do differentiation. So sometimes their goal is not exactly the same as Japanese 6th graders, but it goes very high. And reading and writing, all 4 skills have been mastered to the level that you can sort of read the regular newspaper.
Okay.
And so that is very high level. And conversation is no problem.
Conversation is very
Yes,
good.
so yeah, they can talk to Japanese people and understand.
So if they talk to the parents of their classmates in Japanese, they do very well.
That's not a problem. And when you test the reading level, the kids who read a lot of books in English do well in Japanese reading too. Yeah, and some kids love kanji writing, and they do well in writing, but some kids are kind of reserved and may not be so outspoken, and that child may not be speaking very much in Japanese. So their 4 skills can vary in their improving, but they all do very well by 6th grade. Yes. Yeah, so if any of you know any American children in your neighborhood, the 3-year-olds, and who need some extra challenge, I really welcome, because we're always recruiting. It is between 10% and 20%. The families from non-Japanese speaking families bring their children, and it's always nice to have this group of children. So, do you have any other question? Yes.
I took my students to your math class.
Math class, yeah, he came to our 3rd grade Japanese math class. Yes.
And my students actually started to pick up language just from that single class. But I was wondering, are there certain subjects that are more difficult for students to pick up because of maybe the cultural content? Math is pretty much universal.
Yes,
But maybe
our
something like
students,
history might-
yeah, both students do very well in math, and the part that they get stuck is the word problems. So during the summer break, they all received the word problem packet, and that's what they're working on now. But other than that, math is usually their best subject, and social studies is the hardest. And we don't do the same thing. Science, it overlaps some, but the Japanese history is what we do in 6th grade, Japanese social studies, and American history is what we do in American English social studies. So they have no clue if they just came from Japan. Some kids come at 6th grade and they jump into English social studies, and we're doing Civil War. So, and they've never heard of Civil War. So that's very hard. That's the hardest one.
Could you tell us a little about your own experience? You were born in New York,
Yes.
and did you learn English then, or after you came back?
No, actually, after 3 months I was born, my parents were ready
see.
to go home.
So no English.
Yes, so I came back to the United States and felt the same anxiety and stress I just mentioned. I was 7th grade, and I only knew this is a pen, this is an apple. And I came to American 7th grade classroom, and then there was no word, ESL, there was no such word that, our teachers knew, and the teachers didn't know what to do with me. So my experience was, just very, very difficult, especially during history class.
Yes, right.
And I used to have a tape recorder, this size tape recorder, and then record and take it home and listen to it again. But if you can't understand the live lecture, how can you understand the second time in recording? So, I stopped doing that after a while. I mean, I tried, but this history lecture was way too much for someone who's in this is a pen level. That's all I knew, So all these experience, mentally, academically, what I had at age 12 is helping me to deal with my students' day-to-day problem, because I was there, I know how you feel, and it's really, the same struggle that my students were feeling. I still vividly remember those days, yes. They were nice though, and the math teacher called me and said, you sit here, you'll be my teaching assistant, because I was good at math, My math skills was almost, I can teach them to American, classmates. This means this, and so that made me feel better, and, that is sort of related to our two-way immersion and cooperative learning.
So you actually experienced it.
Yes, I have experienced a lot of that.
Excellent.
Yes.
So you say that we have 2 Seigakuin students coming to Oglethorpe this year?
In the fall.
Wonderful. So then we'll have to revise that page here where Oglethorpe's not mentioned, I think.
It's not mentioned.
Well, we've got all these other schools, well, I don't see Oglethorpe, but now.
Well, that's a Seigakuin Atlanta graduate. But
I see,
this
okay.
is a student from Seigakuin, Japan.
Oh,
University.
Seigakuin,
So,
Japan.
yeah, they didn't
I
come
see,
to our school.
I see. Oh,
But
good. Okay.
yes, there will be 2 students,
Excellent.
definitely.
Yeah, I've been emailing back and forth to them,
Oh, great.
helping them choose the classes.
Oh, good. Yeah, not the history.
It's been,
But
it's been 2 years
it's,
since we had people from Seigakuin, so we're really glad we have 2 this year.
Yes, yeah. I think they can help each other too.
Mhm.
Yeah, although it's better to be separated and don't talk
need
too
to
much.
be, English speaking friend. Is Dr. Nishimura still, is he connected with Seigakuin in
He
Japan?
has come to visit our school about 6 months ago with his brother, and that's the last time we saw him. But he mainly lives in Japan, so I don't get to see him very
Yes.
much.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. But he was very instrumental. And yes,
Are there plans to go beyond the 6th grade here in Atlanta?
My parents ask me that questions a lot, and I have to say no, because two-way immersion education is difficult, a very academically challenging task. And to go to do the same thing in middle school level is very difficult. And then I have to have science lab, computer lab, and everything, and I have to hire middle school teachers. So teachers and facility, and it's a big change. So I think we'll stay as preschool to elementary. But 6 years of Japanese education and 7th through 12th grade in American education, that balance of 6 and 6. It's a nice balance, and some students are thinking about, should I go to a college in Japan or America? They really have that option because they are keeping both languages.
Do you do Saturday classes for students who aren't part of your school?
No, there is another Saturday school, but we are not related. We only Monday through Friday school.
So your Japanese students who return, who may be here, transitional students who return to Japan, since you use the same curriculum as is used in Japan, are they on grade level when they return home?
Yes, that's the reason that I think a lot of parents choose our school. There's less cultural, reverse culture shock when they go back to Japan, and everything is, they have learned. So academically, they're not behind. But socially and other things, they still have a lot of difficult time when they go across the border. And they are accepted by wonderful private schools, middle schools in Japan too. So we're very proud of the Japanese students. At the end of 6th grade, they are really, it's an amazing graduation day. You ask, so where are you going? And the student goes to an American middle school, and the next student says, I'm going to middle school in Japan. So they really go two different paths, and they do well in both countries.
Could you tell us a little bit about the service component that you mentioned initially?
Yes, service learning, we have a binder there, but after 20th anniversary, so this is our like 3rd, 4th year we've been doing, but a lot of people do, a lot of service, community service in high school level, but I wanted to start early. And so we do making sandwiches for homeless people, and they love making sandwiches for homeless people. And the most recent one we did is Congo project. Mr. Mutombo is the NBA defense player and most valuable defense player. He's very famous, retired professional basketball player. But he started a hospital in his country in Congo. So our students wrote get well cards and crayons, and we had boxes to send to his hospital in Congo. That's last year, and we do clean up, and we plant some bulbs so the springtime it will be pretty, and do things like that. And sometimes students say, I want to do this, and that's the best. So we try to make that possible. Although sometimes children's idea is difficult to do, but we try to come up with new ideas with class discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Ahearn.
Thank you very much.